Are we on? Okay, first thing you got to do with these things is go around and snug up each and every one of these bolts, because when they take the long trip from China, they kind of loosen up in vibration. So you don't want them really super tight, just a rubber seal in there. You just need to snug them up. These two here on the bottom, those ones have to come out because the studs are too short. So we pull these guys out. In order to do that, you just take and double nut each one of these studs and spin them out. They should come out fairly easy. Just like that. Okay. With the old studs, you can either keep them or throw them away. I keep them just in case, but choice is yours. Okay, got those out of the way. There's also 4 nuts up in here that you need to, again, just snug up. You don't want them loosening off. If you don't tighten them up, they'll start leaking. These two here have to be in opposite directions. When they come in, they look like that, both going in the same direction. These here, you just swap them around. Then it is stainless steel, so you just want to put a little lube on each one of the threads so that when you tighten them up, it doesn't mar the threads and you'll get a better torque out of it, a true torque. Because again, it is stainless steel. And you kind of just finger tight these things here, like that. Okay, you should have got these in. These are the longer studs for the bottom so that they fit through the plate. You can see the size difference between them. The longer studs go in. I know up in Fargo, we've had these where we've tried just loosening out the shorter studs. The only problem is that once you loosen them off, the casing, you don't have much threads left in the casing. Those then vibrate loose, blows the gasket out, and then the customer gets upset. So I always put a little bit of red Loctite on there so we don't have to worry about these guys loosening off. Again, to put the new studs in, you do just the opposite and take them out. Double nut it, run them in till they bottom out, and you're done. Okay. Same thing on the other one. And just so you know, look at this bottom base here to this here. Those are the two studs that have to be shorter. That's the only ones that have to be longer ones. Again, if you don't replace these, the gasket will blow out. And there we go. So now we're ready to start assembling. So they get the 390 engines on them, the 13 horse. We're now ready to put this thing together. The way I do it might not be the way you want to do it, but with these impellers, they're sandwiched between two O-rings, plastic O-rings on the inside, plastic spacers, so you don't have to worry about your impeller moving. Every once in a while they might move a little bit. Once you're done assembling, that's when you find out. If there's a little bit too much tension on there, you just have to pry the impeller back. But the way I do it, and if you remember, Shane, this was the fun part. Take it, line it up with the keyway on the other side, and then if you look down here, you have 4 mounting bolts, and if you look right here, you can see the divot coming out. You can kind of line those up a little bit. But that takes care of that. Another thing you have to watch is once you've assembled this, come here, Tanner, there's a collar right down here. You want to make sure that that is even. You don't want it sitting up against here because it will just rub. So make sure there's a space in between there before you start tightening that down. But when we start assembling this, you use, what are these? 1.5" 3/8 stainless with a stainless steel lock washer on there. You're going to have 4 of them. And then never use the red unless you're assembling those 2 inches I showed you. Just use a little bit of blue on here. It will come out of the aluminum block just fine, but just helps with vibration. Even though there's lock washers on there, safety is the best policy. So with these guys here, pretty simple. We'll start on this side so you can see. You can just move the engine just a little bit until you can feel them starting to thread in. Just like that. And you'll do all 4 the same way. It's just trying to get your engine centered enough to get all your bolts to run in. Again, these have to be stainless with stainless lock washers up here. If you use a mild steel bolt, they will corrode up. You'll never get them out of the block. So once you get your engine centered on there, you can just run these bolts up inside there. Okay, And just like when you're putting a tire on, you want to make sure that when you start snugging them up, that you're pulling your engine down and evenly across. You'll make sure that this space inside here between this flange and the engine is settled in. So crisscross pattern, it is now snug, so you can snug up and do your opposite corners, again, just like putting on a tire. I know this is fun watching me put bolts on, but Tanner tells me he doesn't have a pause on his phone, so you can fast forward a little bit if you want. So, snug these up. Again, you don't have to do Hulkamania on these things. You just gotta make sure they're tight because you are just putting it into aluminum. Get it? Got it? Good. Okay, so now we get to do these fun ones here. And you can